Good afternoon, students. In continuation to our last lecture, which was about understanding meaning and concept of equality of educational opportunity. In this session, we are going to discuss factors affecting equality of educational opportunity. First of all, let's talk about problems of women education. In the past, most women in our country was controlled mainly by male members or family views and our democratic conservative society. So the enthusiasm and contribution of the missionary institutions in the possibility and expansion of women education at schools cannot be denied altogether. At the start of the 20th century, the leading roles in this matter were played by Ishwar Chand Vidyasagar, Keshav Chandra Sen, Nivedita, and Abla Basu, etc. So, to make the administrator of democratic India aware of their new rules, some comments were published in the World Bank report in 1989. Women in India as a group are more vulnerable than men to the extremes of poverty and its consequences, such as education, employment, wages, healthcare, mortality rate, etc. In the same context, we can refer to another opinion. During the seventh five-year plan, during the seventh five-year plan, the focus of planning shifted from equipping women for their traditional roles as housewives and mothers to recognize their worth as producers and major contributors to family and national development. During the seventh year plan, the focus of planning shifted from equipping women from their traditional roles as housewives, mothers, to recognize their work as producers and major contributors to family and national development, which was a very important move at that time, shifting focus from their traditional roles of housewife, mother, daughter to recognizing their worth in national development and major contributor to family development. Their role as that they can walk ahead on the path of national development. So their role changed all of a sudden. It was noticed, it was observed. All of a sudden, shift focus was shifted from their traditional role to new roles. In 1986, at the time of framing and introducing national education policy, the Education Ministry observed that the main obstacle of the girls' education at school were the rate of literacy. In order to remove this problem, President Venkataraman called the women volunteers for making every woman citizen literate within the year 2000. Though the rate of literacy has increased automatically, the said goal was not reached within the year 2000. Of course, things are continuing, but it was not reached within the year 2000. Different research works pointed out the causes like narrow views of caste system, opposition of family subculture and communal subculture, the influence of isolated lifestyle at remote regions. So different research works pointed out these causes like narrow views of caste system, opposition of family subculture and communal subculture, the influence of isolated lifestyle at remote regions. Bhaktavatsilam Committee mentioned the following problems of women education in rural social education of India during the middle of 20th century. In some rural areas of Rajasthan, the guardians do not agree to send their girls to school. Not only Rajasthan, problem is problem plays in UP, Uttarakhand, Haryana, in many states. So it is not confined to Rajasthan only, but according to this committee's report, to send their girls to school, if the distance of the schools from home are far away, so they did not agree. As a result, there are girls school but no girls there. Schools are there but no admission. So the guardians are of opinion that the girls should not be allowed to stay outside for a long time from their very child. The rate of literacy among the mothers. Less the interest of sending their girls to school, 75% of the rural mothers in UP expresses that their reluctance to admit their girls and pre-primary classes. It is believed and call it mindset that girls should give priority to household works because they will get married and they need to take care of their families. So only domestic work. So they should give priority to household works because they have to be ideal housewives, they have to mothers in future. So taking care of household work is enough for them. The girls were not impaired to take education. In most of the rural areas of the country, the educational expenses for girls are considered as a wastage. Where is the benefit of family? Why should we invest on girls' education if they have to get married tomorrow? What will happen? What we will get in return by getting our girls educated? So this was the kind of mindset. After passing lower primary level, an unequal and partial curriculum starts. The girls learn sewing and the boys would get opportunity for learning metal crafts. The girls would get the scope studying literature and time arts and the boys would get the scope of studying science, technology, sports science, etc. Rural girls or girls between the 15 to 17 years of age from rural background have to be initiated for marriage, and the boys have to be taught vocational education to earn livelihood for their families. So the college lives of the girls in many cases remain incomplete. The vacant seats at the colleges are not filled up by any means. During the last 2 decades, this situation has been changed to a great extent because social views have changed, efforts of society and government administration in support of women education have been enhanced, awareness has increased, people are ready to send their daughters to school, mindset has changed. So situation has changed to a great extent. Despite so many steps introduced, the women education in the villages has been a delay in our progress, mainly because of the slow progress of education among girls, and mainly because of rural mindset or sometimes conservative mindset in our society, which needs to be changed, which needs change and awareness. Second is educational problems of backward classes. So the second point we are going to talk about is educational problem of backward classes. Equalization of educational opportunities was recognized as one of the major goals of Indian education policy. The National Policy Resolution 1968. So, equalization of educational opportunities was recognized as one of the major goals of Indian education policy. The National Policy Resolution 1968 calls for serious efforts to correct regional imbalances and minimize inter-group disparities in the educational sphere. So, National Policy on Education 1986 lays special emphasis on the removal of disparities and equalization of educational opportunity by attending to the specific needs of those who have been denied equality so far. State was directed to promote with special care the education and economic interests of the weaker sections of the society, and in particular of SC, ST and girls. state was directed to promote with special care the education and economic interests of the weaker sections of the society, and in particular SC, ST, and girls' education. Indian society is one of the most egalitarian society. This is one of the most egalitarian society. The basis of disparities being mainly caste, gender, ethnicity, and place or residence. According to Indian Constitution, the members of the following classes or communities have been recognized as the citizens of independent India. According to Indian Constitution, the members of the following classes or communities have been recognized as the citizens of independent India. Scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, nomad nomad class, educationally backward class, distressed class, who is below poverty level, subcaste or tribe, and repressed class. A welfare state is responsible for extending rights of education of educational institutions to them, special facilities for selecting vocation or profession, proper inspiration in interclass mobility, and arrangement for their becoming good dignified citizens. In this connection, opinions of some experts on the educational problems of the backward classes were quoted. The most deprived in the SC/ST female living in rural areas of a backward region. The most deprived in the SC/ST female living in rural areas of a backward region. Special incentives and facilities are also being provided to bring the SC within the fold of education system. There is some progress, but the situation continues to be largely unsatisfactory, not only quantitatively but more so qualitatively. The physical isolation of tribals and the system of economic exploitation acted as a serious constraint to their educational development. Now, one may find villages in northeastern Hill University covered areas where their literacy rate in Christian populated villages is 99.57. Among the Himalayan tribal women, the rate of literacy is negligible. Through schools have been opted for them. Generally, the dropout rate is high from classes 7 or 8. Dalit women yet remain socio-culturally segregated. Maximum 5% of them are literate. So the condition is not good. And then there are other kinds of problems, obstructing problems. In this category, number one is problem of superstition, andhvishwas. Though equal educational rights was supported and accepted in principle, yet some social traditions or religious faith of some classes or communities deprive men with physical and mental ability from institutional education. This social and cultural untouchability is undesired in Indian democratic social system, but it still exists. Untouchability is a traditional consequence of some past social system. Social mobility of India has axed the roots of superstitions like untouchability, like repressed class or downtrodden class, but still could not make society free from their bad effects. Second is in this category obstructing problems. Second is problems of disability. When one lives with a when one lives with a lifelong physical or mental disability, he becomes unable to maintain his normal, normal life. Or a person becomes unable to maintain his life normally, earn a living and take social responsibility. And thus he becomes dependent on others. Evaluation of degree of disability in different cases cannot always be scientific. Where the exact reason for disability could not be determined, man or community blame the parents or power. Even today, in some cases of Western countries, this disability is represented as the defect of science. In case of education, the problems of man affected with obstacles are multifaceted. Are multifaceted. In order to make them independent, institutional training with special method is required, which is accepted by all. With the help of this method, the degree of their disability decreases in some cases or can be controlled with modern technology in some cases. Above all, those who will teach with this method should remember the success of making pupils interested, active and practice minded. So the instance of crossing the hill by the handicapped, though very few but are not rare in social life. In 1925, The laws for protection and availing of opportunities for the physically and mentally handicapped were enacted by the Government of India. Though up to the year 2000, no census was done in respect of different types of disability. 5% of the country's population was found to be handicapped as per the information gathered in the year 2001. The main purpose of the social special learning process for them is to make the handicapped persons return to mainstream of society. Some problems of the institutional education for the handicapped still awaits for proper solution, like problem of not getting education by every person who is handicapped up to the age of 18 years at every institution in every region. Problem of lacking necessary tools, accessories and deserving teachers for educating the handicapped with special method. Problem of lacking scientific evaluation of their real problems. Opportunity for related medical treatment and administrative orders in the district-based primary education program. Problem of unavailability of the address for communication with the expert teachers experienced in teaching with special methods. So in this context, the, state, the statement of the trustees of the said ministry is not well known. Problems related to rural, urban and industrial population. So let's talk about problem of rural areas or problems of rural areas, rural people. Before democracy, the rights of education was under the possession of particular varna, one or class in the rural areas of the country or in most of the areas of the country. The then educated persons did not feel discomfort to remain as uneducated through generations. The then uneducated persons did not feel discomfort to remain as uneducated through generations because there was no awareness. It was okay with them to not get educated, no education, or it was okay with them because it did not create any discomfort, there was no awareness. Rather, the interest for education was considered as going beyond one's rights. Institutional women education was prohibited. It was completely prohibited. Majority of uneducated families in rural areas was natural due to the reasoning of against God's will and decrease of female male dominated families. In 1949, with the support of UNESCO, the Education Ministry of India introduced social education projects in order to develop democratic views and conduct among the villagers. In the words of Abdul Kalam ji, the then educated education minister, Abul Kalam, the then education minister, Mr. Abul Kalam ji, It means education for the entire man. It will make him literate. Tell him the modern methods of handicrafts. And finally, impart to him the education of citizenship. In this connection, Saeddin, the then Education Secretary, had said, the aim of social education is both individual as well as social. The aim of social education is both individual as well as social because it seems to elevate various standards of life so that people may be in position to make active contribution in all spheres of life, in all spheres of national progress. So it will teach villagers about the reconstruction of villages. The aim of, so according to Sayadin, the Education Secretary, the aim of social education is both individual as well as social. It seems to elevate various standards of life so that people may be in position to make active contribution in all spheres of national progress. It will teach villagers about the reconstruction of village. Through these projects, adult education, establishment of rural libraries, community center for recreation and cultural functions of the aged, teaching women different ways of self-employment, revival of college industries, etc. were given special importance. However, these projects were completely dependent on the government grants at their initial stage. In the last century, the progress of institutional education in different rural areas was hampered due to various reasons. As a result, in the early 21st century, we find the problems in remote rural areas till today. At every village, there is still 20% illiterate families approximately. And it is not possible to comment on the progress of the nearly literate till the census report is new or latest census report is published. The children of some rural families are not encouraged for their childhood education due to ignorance. As a result, the number of dropout children has not been nil at the lower and higher primary level. The school inspection program introduced to society the management of educational institutions is inactive, so the student faces inconveniences to an increased degree. The advices of the investigating committees or the essential duties regarding educational environments of the primary school and their curricula have not still been materialized. As a result, guardians of even students has to seek refuge of tutors even going beyond their capacities. In this regard, United Nations commented in July 2003, India is lagging behind in terms of reaching target of development of human resources. The educationally backward classes of society stand against the spread of education. Their gap with the mainstream of society is really huge. Problem of acquiring institutional education in urban areas. The number of non-government educational institutions is increasing in urban and metropolitan areas at a very fast rate. To bear the expenses of education in these institutions is difficult for the guardians of middle class or lower class, lower class in general. Therefore, the offsprings of the financially higher classes get the scope of education in these institutions through generations because they are able to afford them. The educational institutions aided or conducted by government in the urban areas are of poor standard. Though admission and studying in these institutions are relatively available for the offsprings of the middle or lower middle class. Yet success rate in secondary examination is relatively low. This success rate decreases significantly in higher secondary examination. Vocational educations, all India competitive examination and higher education are very difficult for them after attaining adulthood. Though the rate of literacy in the country denotes progress, yet evaluation of their merit and or its proper development are notably hampered. These students do not get direct experience with modern learning tools and accessories, libraries, computer training used in modern educational institutions. The possibility of developing their social responsibility remains high in most cases. Problems of industrial areas. Industrial slums areas are gradually built in an unplanned way outside the industrial towns. Incidentally, those areas are called busties or slums for locally displaced and insolvent families. The manners, subcultures, values, or conception of the narrow life of the dwellers of these busties keep the interest of the group simply. They keep their existence on keeping social and mental distance from the majority of citizens and being the victim of administrative negligence. Their dwelling places unspacious, unhealthy, and the cattle sheds. These busties are overpopulated. They are uneducated or illiterate or have no fixed profession. Today, they are doing one job, tomorrow they are opting for something other, whatever suits them. So they are uneducated or illiterate and have no fixed profession. The method of their earnings and the quantity of their solvency are in most cases unknown and controlled by some miscreants. Poverty, lack of education, and family pressure are the main obstacles for improvement of their standard of life. Offsprings of these families become devoid of institutional education through generations. Ignoring the compulsory child education policy, the seeds of social responsibility are not sprouted within them. They are the embodiment of failure of social life, social administration, and democratic social system. In the venture of urbanization and industrialization of rural areas, being uprooted from their original village shelter, they migrate towards cities and develop new settlements at the outskirts of a metropolis in the vicinity of industrial towns and block development extension. In the unattended areas within the city, very close to public place even, and develop a traditional slum culture. They hardly feel the need for institutionalized exposure of education for their growing children. As there are enough facilities for higher education in the industrial towns, the students of high income class use the full rights of taking those facilities. Here, in the higher education institutions, the number of students from high income and middle income families is not negligible. But the number of meritorious students from the low income group is very few. But the number, if there is no administrative indifference, the bad effect of class discrimination will significantly decreases and be removed in near future with the influence of class mobilization. In the working field of the industrial center, among the white collar workers, the effect of class discrimination has been significantly decreased due to the daily interaction among themselves or their families. So, these were the factors or are some of the factors which affects equality of opportunity for all. Problems of which are as follows: problems of women education, educational problems of backward classes, obstructing problems like which creates obstructs like problem of superstition, problem of disability, then problems related to rural, urban and industrial population, problems of industrial areas, problems of acquiring institutional education in urban areas, etc. In our next session, we will cover another important and new topic, that is inclusive education.